Okay, we have placed the rough blockouts in here, and normally when I'm going to create projects, I do a lot of these primitive shapes, and from this create menu, I bring a lot of these create shapes and bring them into the scene and then start addressing. But in here, I'm going to make it a bit shorter and do the proxy mesh and the blockout at the same time. And I'm going to make the dock or port or whatever you call it in the first place, and then start detailing them out. So let's go and see what the dock references are. And this is perfectly what the dock is going to be. I'm going to create something like this, a house, or this house is going to be rather an old one, and a dock that is above the sea level, something like these that you see in the images. And I'm going to make it modular, something like this that was once used as a pirate island dock, and a lot of ships and boats and things were here, but now it's abandoned. And I'm calling this one abandoned because I want to make it old, because these old ones prove to be a lot more challenging. You see, creating something like this is a lot harder than creating something like this, for example, so nice and tidy. So I decided to make this one an old port, and I'm going to make it modular. And it's going to be a lot of woodwork we are going to do in here. Okay, I'm going to first make the blockouts in Blender, in the proxy meshes and blockouts in Blender, and then import them into Unreal. And let me demo something that you see. It's good to take this mannequin, let me find it in here, and grab this mannequin, right click, asset action, and export. And I'm going to export this and import it in Blender so that we have the same scale that we have in here in Blender also as well. So export, and I'm going to export it right in here, FBX format. And for consistency's sake, when you open a Blender scene, it's always good to bring the units up. Let me find the unit. It's in here. And always, to make sure that everything is consistent, make sure that the unit system is metric, and for length you are free to use centimeters or meters, but I encourage you to use centimeters because that is what Unreal Engine does. Unreal Engine units equal 1 centimeter equals 1 Unreal Engine unit. So I encourage you, every time you open a new Blender scene, always try to match your unit system with Unreal Engine. So now I'm going to import the mannequin. Let me go and import it. And it's from the same file in here. And let's import FBX. And now we have this that we can use as an FBX. Or, excuse me, as a reference for the size. So I'm going to make a cube, default cube, and this cube is 2 meter by 2 meter and roughly a bit larger than this mannequin it should be. So let's see, and the size is all right. This one is 2 meter and the mannequin is 82 centimeters high. And to get rid of these, I'm going to select the mannequin, and you need to open it, and these roots I'm going to disable them so that we only see the mannequin in here. So let's save the scene, and always remember to save in increments so that you do not miss something. And I'm going to delete this light and the camera because I do not need them, okay? And for the starters, I'm going to make the modular kit for the port itself, for the dock itself. I mean these wood kits that become connected to each other and form the shape, the overall shape of the port. So let's see what we can do about it. So I'm going to bring a plane, a 2x2. I feel like 2x2 is a little bit too small for this. Let's hide this and make it 400 instead. For this one, I'm going to make a cube instead so that I have a little bit of more control over the size. So on the height, I'm going to make it fairly small, something like this, and let's assign the pivot in here and apply the transformations. Looks like my viewport pies are disabled. Let's select them, pie menus, and now it's working perfectly. And make the pivot in here and center it. Okay, this is good for the height, but I feel like I can bring it down just a little bit. Okay, and now I'm going to make it a little bit larger. A 2 by 3 unit will do. This one is 2 by 3. And of course I need to select all of it. So let's go in here and select the X-ray and start to move it in here. And I'm going to make it roughly 2 by 3. This is going to be our first one. So let's center it and put the pivot in here and apply all of the transformations. But I'm not going to make this so flat. I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting by adding some planks, some ordinary planks, not so complicated. So let's first select it and make it rename to static mesh underscore mod for modular dock. And in here I can, for example, call it 3 by 2 and underline 01. Always make sure to have good naming conventions so that their files are readable and you have no problem in selecting and manipulating them. So this is fine, and this 01 makes sure that we, even if we have some variations and things, we are happy and no problem creating the variations. Just duplicate it and rename it to 02 and you'll be good to go. Okay, this is it, and I'm going to select it sometime, and in here try to make some planks in here, but I do not want them to be so big. I just want some tiny planks so that it has a little bit of depth in here. So let's select them all and copy them around, and just manipulate them a little bit because I do not want these to be so flat. I just want to have a little bit of definition to the environment in the first place when we start to create it. Okay, and I do not want everything to be so CG perfect. Always try to add imperfections. For example, in here, in case of this distance between the individual planks, I'm going to make them a little bit more random. So let's select them all and select this that has the right name as the last one and hit Ctrl and J to make them united. So all of the naming is right in here. So this is the first one. Let me see it. And you should have in mind always to never change the name and the pivot, because if you change them and export it to Unreal and re-import it back, and if the pivot is off, you are getting some offset problems. Or if you change the name, you are getting completely new identity, which you really do not want to have something like that. Okay, and for the pivot, I'm thinking to place the pivot right in here to make the transformations a little bit better. For modular kits, if they are normal kits, always like to place the pivot somewhere in here in the bottom left or whatever you call it. So let's select it, and you can bring it in the center of the world or leave it anywhere else that you want. So let's drag this one out and bring the batch export and assign an export folder for it. So in the blockout folder, let's call a folder export, and just by one click we are able to export this into Unreal. Of course, these are going to be nanite meshes, but for now I'm not going to change them into nanite. I just import them as ordinary mesh inside Unreal Engine. So inside Unreal, let's go into content and select the Pirate Island folder that we have and create a folder called meshes. And in here also I'm going to create a folder called doc, so that I always put the doc architectural folders in, contents in here. So import and bring this. If you want to make it nanite, you want to hit build nanite, but for now I'm not going to do anything, and export it as it is. Okay, import it as it is. So this is it, and let's drag it into the scene and start to, I shouldn't have done that, to displace the camera. So let's take this one and delete it, and take this one and make a copy. Always try to have a copy from your camera. So let's pin it to stay in here, and first save and hit and disable the real time so that no extra barrier is on the performance. So now the translation mode is set to world. I'm going to make it local so that the rotation stays relative to local, not like that. Okay, so let's take this one and bring it up a bit, and I'm going to duplicate it a couple of times to bring it right in front. So let's delete it to see if I'm going to make this 100 units. Let's copy it to see 100, 200, and 300. Okay, this is 300, but there's a little bit of offset in here which we care about later on. For now, I'm going to only duplicate this sometimes to make the parts available. So I can even try to copy this around, but not. Let's put it in this. And let's go and make something a square like for this. Instead of making it a 3 by 2, let's make it 6 by 6 to cover a lot more space. So again, let's copy this and bring it in here and create a plane. This is 2 by 2. I'm going to use this as a reference. Now the dimension is 400. So let's take it, and these squares are a meter long. So I'm going to extrude it a couple of meters from here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple of squares from here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is selecting this one. I'm going to take this and bring this up in here and duplicate it sometimes. 3 times in here and a couple of times in here. For now, for the scaling, I'm not really caring so much because I'm going to make this a little bit imperfect. So I really do not care about if the size is a couple of centimeters off. So now I'm going to select all of these and select this one as the last one and hit Control and J so that pivot becomes available in here. So hit save and bring it in here and call it static mesh doc 6 by 601 so that we know that it's the first one. So let's correct the name and export it again. And again, go into Unreal Engine. First, let's delete these off because I want to use them in another situation and import them from here. 6 by 6. Save them out and start to bring them from here. Okay, this is really a lot better. So let's disable the snappings and bring this one up just a bit. Okay, and now I'm going to enable the snappings. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 is all right. And there's a couple of centimeters off. I'm going to fix it later on. So for this one, I'm going to use that other one. Let's select it and in here, place it. So this is not working. I believe this is a bug from Unreal Engine 5 early access. It might be fixed in the future releases. So let's drag this one and bring it up just a bit. Or let's drag this out. Or you can simply click on here, and because the namings are neighboring, we can simply select the static mesh from there. So select this one and offset it to here. Okay, I'm happy with this, and let's duplicate it and bring it in front. Just one more copy and it's done. And since this part isn't going to be seen by the camera, I really do not care if it's going to be alright or not. So let's take this one and copy it in here to expand the port just a little bit. So now this is getting a little bit too CG. I'm going to create a new one. And let's take this, drag a copy, and of course bring this one out in here and make this one a 4x4. Okay, and drag a 4x4 plane. And let's take this, and of course I did it wrong. Take this one and bring it in here. Center this one and bring it roughly into the place and start to rescale it. Okay, this one is good, and rescale it in Y so that we have a bit of 4x4 as well. So the pivot is also in its place, and let's take this one, this plane, delete it. Okay, and this is a 4x4 piece, and let's export it and bring it in here. And again into Unreal Engine, and the same thing, try to import it. And in here, select the 4x4 piece and bring it to the right a bit in here so that we can do some things in here. And overall, I feel like I need to bring this sea level down a bit because it's too high, and I need a little bit of more separation between the coast itself and the sea. I want the sea level to be down a bit. So let's go into the landscape mode and sculpt. Let's change the brush size down and hit shift to bring this sea level down just a bit. And I'm not being too careful with the sculpting because no matter what we do, this is going to be replaced by a water shader and a plane. So I'm not going to be so careful about this. So we are far away from it. Let's bring the brush size up and start to bring this down. Just some more. And I can add the water plane in here, for example. So let's save everything out and try to expand the port in these directions. So let's copy this one out and take this one also, take these and copy them. So take it and place it in here or in here. Now the distance in here should be 4 meters, which I believe is okay. And now let's bring this one up and start to play to see what we have created so far. So this is the house and this is the port. Make it a little bit smaller, and in here also is going to be the port. Okay, I'm happy with this. Or instead of making this so uniform, I'm going to take this, delete it, and use one of these 4x4 pieces and extract it out to make a landing port that is different to the size of this one. And this is going to be all right. And let's expand the port to this area as well. I wanted to cover all of the area and the transition area between the beach and the sea. So let's take this one and drag it out so that the house is placed on one of these ports. Okay, something like this. And we can place some things in here, for example, add a little bit of a storytelling. For example, these has been broken off or something. So let's see what happens in the future. Okay, in here, I'm happy with it. And the good thing is that when we try to create nanite meshes, the nanite meshes are so high quality that the transition line isn't so straight and CG. You see a lot of transitions going back and forth and make it so natural. So let's copy this and I'm going to expand and make the port a lot more epic. So this is a little bit more like it. And in here, for example, I can add some fences or things like that. Have in mind. And again, take this one and I'm going to extrude another port from it. You see these ports in real life when the the ship lands in here and people walk in here and try to walk on port or put something in trees or whatever you call it. I'm going to create that. So we have successfully created some ports. And to make it more interesting, I'm going to borrow this kit and copy it in here and place it in here to make another layer of port. And because we have placed the static mesh instance in here, I'm going to select this, delete it, and select this one and delete it as well. I'm only going to select this and delete it. Now we have this, a small one. So let's take it and copy it. And in here, there's a little bit of intersection, and that is no problem. I can, for example, make it a broken port or something like that. So overall, I'm happy with how the port is coming along. Let's take this one and copy it over. And later on, when we start to flesh out the scene, I can take this, for example, and in Blender, make a new variation out of this and call it variation 02 and I start to manipulate it, change something from it and create some new things from it. For example, something like this, a broken off version or something like that. But for now, I'm only concentrating on the main pieces and rather architectural pieces that make up the port. And now that I'm looking at this, these wooden ports are not standing on top of nothing. I'm going to make some base for them so that they stand on top of something, not on the air, to add a little bit of realism and storytelling to that. And I'm going to create something like this. These cylindrical wood pieces that act as a base for the wood and something like this. Okay, let's go and start to create that. Okay, in here I'm going to take this, bring it in here. I'm only going to use this as the pivot placement. And when I'm done with placing it, I'm going to remove this piece. Okay, we have selected this one. Let's bring a cylinder in and try to shade smooth it. So in here, I'm going to shade smooth. Okay, and now let's resize it. I want it to be quite smaller, something like this, and I start to increase the size. Okay, box ray mode again, and take this one and bring it down. I really do not care about the size for now, of course. Later on, we're going to fix it when we try to create real meshes. So let's take this one and bring it down much. Okay, and place it in here. From the top view, it looks all right. So there's one thing to have in mind, and that is I'm not really going to copy this in here, because if I copy this in here and try to modularize the kit, if I let me take these and try to copy it over, I'm going to take and make an intersecting piece. So I do not want that. So I'm going to take this one and delete them. So this is about it. And let's take a couple of more and rescale them. And try to copy them some more times so that they act as a base for our port thing. So let's take these and I'm going to bring them in just a bit. And for these ones, I'm going to copy them to this side and offset them just a bit. So let's take the whole thing that we created and make this one the last selected object and hit Ctrl and J, and now the pivot has been placed in here, right, just like what we wanted. And I'm going to select all of these middle pieces and select all and delete them. Okay, this is what I wanted to create. Let's take this and shade smooth and make the shading all right. So in here, I'm going to select these and copy them horizontally so that it becomes a lot more natural. So let's resize it down, and this is okay. This is for the 3x2 port piece. And now let's come in here, doc, and call it doc base underline 3x2 underline 01 in case we wanted to create a variation later on. So the good thing about making the pivot just like united with this one is that when we try to manipulate them, they become spawned on the same place. So let's take this and export it, and right in a minute you're going to understand what I'm going to do. So import and wood base, and I'm going to take this one, and in here I'm going to select this and delete them so that I have only this one remained. So let's take this one and try to copy it over instead of using the blueprint version that we had. So this one, and to bring that, I simply copy and paste this and use this one and spawn it. It's not working, so let's drag it from here. Okay, now you see the base and protector have been spawned right in a place for us. And I have this intersecting piece in here, which I'm going to take care of. So let's come in here, select this, and delete it. So let's export it again. And all we have to do is selecting this one and hit re-import. And now the problem has been fixed. Now we do not have any intersecting piece in here. So let's drag it out. Of course, in the future, I'm going to make a lot more variations from this and make it not so uniform. And I feel like I'm going to place a big cylinder over here as well. So let's take this one, drag it out, and place it here. And I'm going to delete this one. Okay, hit export and re-import again. And this is really powerful, reflecting the changes just in a minute. So now I'm going to do the same for all of the remaining pieces. So let's bring this one in here. And now I'm going to make something for this. And for that, I'm going to also take this one in here and expand it just a bit. Select all of them and bring them in here. And again, select all of these. And looks like I've done that wrong. I'm going to select these as well. So in here, let's drag these out. Okay, I'm happy with this. And I'm going to copy this one and bring it right in here in the middle of this. So again, let's copy the whole thing. I mean, these middle ones, I really do not want these ones to be selected. So let's select these ones. Okay. And copy them over to this side as well. select this, copy, no, I'm not going to copy that in here. So in this one, I'm going to call it static mesh modular dock base, and this one is going to be the 6 by 6 piece. Okay, and now export and drag these two out right in here. Of course, they are separate pieces, but for having a little bit of consistency sake, I'm going to make them belong to the same place and not being attached to each other. So let's take care of this one and copy this one as well. Select all of these and bring it right in here. Now I'm going to select just a portion of it, select them all, and bring this out. And for now, I'm not really caring about these because they are going to be fixed later on. So, and this is good also, but let's take this and drag them right in here in the middle. So for this one also, I'm going to call it 4x4 and hit export. And I'm going to delete this one and bring this one in its place roughly. So let's go to Unreal and bring the two pieces that we created. Okay, 4x4 and 6x6. Import. I do not want to change any of the settings. Okay, I'm happy with this. So let's take this because this is going to have some bases and copy and paste it. And I'm going to bring the 4x4 piece for it. Okay, now it's coming along together very perfectly. And for this, let me see what I can do about it. Copy it and replace it with the 6x6 base. But it looks like that I do not need this one to be in here. So I'm going to take it, rotate it 90 degrees and place it in here. And this one is a lot better. Instead of covering this part that the player is going to walk through, it's going to cover this area instead. So let's take this one and copy it out in here. And again, take this one and bring the 4x4 piece 90 degrees and place it in here. Okay, I'm happy with how this is going along. So take this one, copy it, and 6x6 piece. So again, and copy this here so that we have the landing place for the piece that we have here. So let's take this one also, and I'm going to, no, I'm not going to copy this because this area is ground and we really do not need to make unnecessary piece in here. So in here again, I'm going to place the 3x2 and copy it a couple of times. And this one is broken. I really do not need to do anything with it. So this is the 6x6 piece. Let's copy. No, this is not 6x6. This is 4x4. Let's bring the 4x4 and start to flesh it out. And the good thing with this approach is that when we try to detail these and make them nanite meshes, the replacement thing is going to be the matter of only re-importing. And you're going to see this in the future, how powerful this is going to be. So we have done a little bit of placement. Let's go in here and find the camera. Okay, I'm happy with how the port is coming along together. And I can even drag this camera back to reveal a lot of the port again, but I'm not going to do that right now. So let's select this and bring the base. It's 6x6. And all you need to do is only dragging these out. Okay, this is good and I'm happy with it. And now the only remaining things are these, I believe. So this is the 4x4 piece. Copy it and bring this 4x4 piece. And I'm going to make this right like this. Okay. And try to copy this over more. Okay, I'm totally happy with how the port is coming along together. Let's take a save from the scene so that nothing really messes up. So I'm going to call this C. And let's jump back into the scene and see what is going on. Yeah. As for the scaling, I'm really happy with how the port scaling is going on. This is good. And I feel like I need to make this house a little bit bigger and more sophisticated. Anything is all right. Okay, I'm happy with the port. And in the next session, I'm going to improve the port even more. Okay, see you there.